case. Some of that money has to go toward one of the developers who's building well 9, but part of the money's left over for us, which will be utilized to defray some of our expenses. So about $300,000 or so. So we're in pretty good shape.
Thank you. And again, if I understood it right, it's not like we're gonna get the $1.4 million in one shot. This is as new homes are built,
Yeah.
so it's, but at least it's on the positive side. Okay. Okay, do I have a motion open for public comment? Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
It's now open to the public. Mr. Check you. Give everybody else a chance.
That's good. I like what I heard.
Just give me an address, you know.
12 Winwood Drive, Barnegat, check you. Okay. I have a question. We have a budget of, I think it was, what's our yearly budget? From January 1, December 31, 2011. What was our budget?
For sake of argument, $20 million.
Okay, we'll just use that figure, okay. Now, I always hear us saying, we anticipate taking in and spending 20 million. But when I read something today that was very interesting about Jackson Township. People are starting to complain about ways that the township committee goes over there. Is this on? I don't even know. Ways that they go over the 2% cap, or whatever that cap is. And I see it here as how we're going around the cap, because when we do a budget that's 20 million, and then you people take the money from the water and sewer, which leaves that fund short, and put it into the daily operating funds, and on top of that, borrowing, bonding, or bonds for that particular year that have to maybe start paying on, but also the notes that you take out. Now, when you take a note out, do you pay it as soon as you get the money? Or is that going to a long-term note? In other words, if you're short of money, and you add money from the water and sewer to the $20 million budget, which is already 2% or less under cap, according to the state review, you take $1 million from I heard one night here that you took $1 million, or I don't know what the exact figure was, from water and sewer and moved it over. You do emergency transfers. Now, is that emergency transfer from other line items within the 20 million?
Now, emergency transfers, unfortunately, is a misnomer. The state requires you label them emergency transfers,
Okay.
and what they really are is for the first few months of the year until your budget is finalized,
Okay.
they call them emergency transfers, and you think that means there's no money in the bank. It's just the state's requirement that you use that verbiage. All it is you're voting on a monthly temporary budget.
Okay, now, is that included in, say, the 20 million, and then when you take money and transfer it without emergency transfer, those funds, you go over the 20 million when you take money from the water and sewer?
No.
You don't do that?
No.
So in other words, we didn't spend any more than the 20 million? Not a dime more?
No,
Not a dime less either?
that's the budget. Right.
That's the budget.
That's what I'm
So when you transfer from water and sewer, how do we replace that money that you took from the water and sewer in case we have 9,000 lines that break? How do we pay for that?
Who said we took for money?
I heard you say you transferred from,
Dave,
am I hearing things or?
We have not used utility money in the current fund during the past couple of years. Regardless, when you do a temporary emergency appropriation,
Yeah.
either for the current fund or for water and sewer, you cannot overlap them. With
Okay,
regards to budget.
then I'm hearing things because I heard you at a meeting say you took money from the water and sewer, am I right?
We,
Over and did that appropriation money from the water and sewer?
We're not mixing water and
Emergency
sewer money with
temporary
regular.
appropriation.
Okay, so we should have a very nice outstanding surplus in the water and sewer. And you pay salaries, et cetera, like
Correct.
Jake said, okay. The other is, what is the litigation? So we don't spend more than the 20 million, not a dime more. So if we took all that and balanced that all out, debit, credit, and everything else, it'll come to the exact figure that Dave presents to you to pass to us.
You can't exceed the budget without amending the budget. We'd have to do that at a public meeting. I
But
don't-
that would go over cap.
No,
No,
If you have to get more money than what the budget is what I'm
the,
talking
the
about.
bottom line is last year, our tax levy went down by roughly $33,000. So we asked for 33,000 less
No,
than
no,
the
no, I
taxpayer.
understand.
So we're not even close to cap.
But when you're short of money, you have to take a note.
When you're short of,
How do you pay that back?
with regards to note, most likely you're talking about a BAN, B-A-N, anticipation note. That's on a yearly basis to fund capital needs. Back in 2010, the township took a TAN, tax anticipation note, in September, October, in order to gap.
Gap the difference. Now, did we pay that back already?
Oh yeah, we paid that back immediately.
Right, immediately. Okay, that was the question. The other is, the litigation, what, on the mink, that whole project, what has it cost the taxpayer without the settlement in legal fees to date?
And legal fees?
And it's not your firm, because I know it's another firm that's
Oh,
doing
you're talking
something.
about the firm that the town is.
Yeah, that firm, and total legal fees for that, to the taxpayer.
I don't,
Any idea yet?
A whole lot less than $250,000, but I don't know what it is.
Okay, so we're almost breaking even on that, at this point, with that settlement that you just said.
oh, no.
Oh,
The,
wait,
No.
the legal expense associated with Mark Roselli and his firm, which is handling the county and Mink litigation regarding Mirage, is far less. I mean, far less than $250,000. I hate to hazard guesses, but we're probably in the neighborhood of $40,000 to $50,000.
Okay, because I remember you saying it's gonna cost us tens of thousands to try to recoup this.
Well,
I remember, so it cost us, well, not you, I don't think you wrote that, I forget who was sitting up there, when it started, I don't remember. But I do remember certain things that were said. The other is, in fairness to me and to Mr. Dasty, I had asked in the state, and he gave me the right answer, where in the state language, statute, and any legislative language, rather than the mumbo jumbo they give us, hybrid didn't exist, because he did call me. Now that must have came in after you called me, because you would have known that. You see,
next question.
so I have to ask, okay,
Yes, this is the
so
last one.
Mr. Dasty was right. That was put and inserted post,
Bill, I wanna
phone
write
call.
this down. Give me that again. What's today's date?
It's, whatever. But I remember you calling me and telling me that it didn't exist. And here it exists. But that came, I'm assuming it came after you made that phone call.
Thank you.
I mean that, and I say that with great respect.
All right, thank you, Phil.
Just,
I already let you go over.
over. You guys talk. Or,
You got something short? Finish up, go ahead. Finish
no,
up.
I'll just let it go. I'll let it go at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Phil.
Anybody else? Mr. Taylor?
Thanks, Al. JKR 106 Newark Road. On that township ordinance briefly, because I know it's only the first reading, I just want you to look into it very carefully. When I was on the subcommittee some years ago when we passed that, the old, to make the center of town, we extended the heritage, the history part of it.
Historic.
And it did cost some friends of mine in that district extra money. Like they got permits and it was a $50 extra because they lived in this historic district. And that was after that ordinance. That ordinance specifically, but look into it where I'm not against this, creating this thing, where the people that live there, it's not gonna cost them extra. The historical thing did cost people extra. Like if you put a window in your house, they had another inspection. They had, I come to the town hall, but it's in the minutes. They had to have another inspection to make sure this window matched the historical thing and all, and it cost an extra $50 in
Yeah, but
permits.
that's not.
I don't wanna see that happen again.
Okay, we'll look into that.
So I'm not gonna.
Jeff, go ahead. I know Jeff's been on this for a long time.
Hey Jay, can I answer that for you? A couple of things. The historic district is being expanded, but it has not been officially expanded as yet. The new map overlay of the district is part of what this town center designation is going to resolve all of those issues. So depending on where whoever it was lived, they would be only bounded by the old boundary of the historic district. And we had discussed this in years past, and I would like to see this happen, to do away with that $50 charge for being in the historic district, because it didn't necessarily mean you got an extra inspection, it's just that the Historic Preservation Commission, they looked at the plans to make sure, they looked at whatever you were doing, to make sure it met with the historic character of the neighborhood and what have you. But I myself don't think that anyone should be penalized an extra $50 just because they live in the district, so.
It did happen.
Oh no, it still happens today, I mean, it's just part of the process.
It's wrong, and I expect you guys to correct
Right,
it.
and I would like to see that $50.
A friend of mine had it, I looked into it, and there was no way out of it. The way the ordinance was wrote and the way we did it, they had to pay the extra 50,
That's correct.
and it was wrong. By the way, there's an opening on the Open Space Committee, and I volunteer my services.
I vote for you, Jake. I nominate Jake. I nominate Jake.
I was kicked off because I wrote a letter to the state complaining about the expenses. But anyhow, on the water settlement, the way it sounded to me, it sounded like we did pretty good on the wells and stuff like that. But I do have a comment on the $250,000 from the county on the Mirage settlement. We spent about $1 million over there. That's reported many times.
Remember, that's only half.
All right, but now, what was this other items of value? Can that be discussed, or is that?
No, that's, you can't discuss that.
Okay.
But it will come up to, it should come up to $500,000 county, $500,000 bank for the $1 million.
Well, I'm letting the guy just.
Right, no, I know, it's a good
Now,
question.
on the other ordinance, that Dave, did you come out on this ordinance, on the Patriots Cove and Laurel Oaks? Does this ordinance, the way it is, you have it there, my concern is that Patriots Cove only spent, they only paid $27,000 in taxes for the entire year of 2010. Does this ordinance have anything to do with how they're gonna pay their taxes, their tax rate?
This resolution will wind up costing, in terms of pilot payments to the town, of about $55,000 to $60,000 for Laurel Oaks. A year,
Let's,
to the town,
yeah,
directly to the
let's
town.
make it clear. Laurel Oaks, Patriots Cove, 100% affordable housing, they do not pay property taxes. So the tax rate really is secondary. What they do pay is a pilot, payment in lieu of taxes, and that pilot is based upon a financial calculation developed by the state. At the end of the day, the township gets roughly 6 or 7% of the net income.
Yeah, well, I only know is the one figure, we really took a shaft. The figure from the Patriots Cove for 2010 was $27,000. That didn't pay for 3 of the kids that come out of there to go to school. We took, and I just want this ordinance, I don't know if it was making it worse or better or whatever.
No, but
Yeah,
that's
it's the state, this is the state.
We have no control over it, Jake.
All right, we got, on the fireworks ordinance, where are you getting the money for that?
Open space property.
No. Special events and holidays.
Holiday funds, that would be.
So are you gonna spend the $7,000 for a barge out of the open space fund again? I have this bill with me.
No, no problem. When we had to spend $7,000, that was the year that the state mandated that we get 4 barges. Normally, we only used 1, and within a week or 2 of the display, we were told that we had to get 4 barges.
Well, there's more than one year where you use open space money for the fireworks.
That's correct.
I have it, you know.
Yeah. Mhm.
And, naturally with my conversations with the state, they didn't invite me up here, but I talked to them on the phone.
Mhm.
And,
You didn't talk to him nice enough to get to.
well, maybe I will get invited up. If I keep sending them some of the stuff the way you're spending it. What I have in mind here is that last week we discussed, the ordinance on, you were going out for bids, John, on some curbing and stuff down the field.
That's correct, it's out to bid.
Yeah, to install the turf.
No, to,
It had to be before the turf.
stuff, that's correct.
Do you have any information on that turf?
What do
Do
you
you know
mean?
anything about the turf? What it cost, how long it lasts?
My
I mean,
understanding is,
you're gonna put this curbing in, I mean, you must be up to date on the turf.
my understanding is the turf was donated by the Naval Academy off of one of their fields,
I called the Naval Academy,
right?
and, Dave, in the paper, you said this turf was free. It cost us $28,000 to have it shipped up here. And then my, that, 28,000, two bills different. They charge us 40-some thousand, then they added some more, come out to a total of 28,000. Right here, your paper. What I'm saying is that I called the athletic director down at Annapolis. I spoke to the assistant athletic director. So I told him who I was and where I come from. And I asked him why they took the turf up. Wore out. That's what he told me. I have the guy's name and phone number. Do you have any information on how long that turf lasts, Dave? That you got for nothing?
Mr. Cotton acquired the turf on behalf of the township. Turf was donated. Mr. Cotton made certain representations. I think it may be appropriate to bring Mr. Cotton in so he can fully explain his position. He explained it to myself and Mr. Hess, and we were very pleased, very happy that we were able to secure the turf itself for no cost, and that it should last anywhere between 7 and 10 years. The turf was down on the fields down there for roughly 2 years and was hardly ever used.
Turf, now I'm going to correct you because I'll give you the guy's phone number, you know? And in fact, here's how you say you got it for nothing. The contract for the turf, they got the hook into you, Dave. Anyhow, the contract for the turf, they were paid to get rid of the turf. You understand? Somebody got the money to get rid of the turf. We hauled it away for our $28,000. But part of the deal to install the new turf was paid for. You understand? They just didn't, it wasn't going to just disappear. So, you know, somebody got in on the, whatever, you know, and I'm trying to get the contract, which I'll have. But I spoke to the assistant athletic director. Now, Dave, you got your little pen out? The turf was down for 6 years down there. So I asked the guy, quote, you know, why he took it up. He said it was wore out. He said the turf itself is only good for around 8 years. It was down there for 6, it's been down here a year. So we're putting this worn out turf down in Barnegat. Now, these are the figures that I have from Annapolis. So, you know, like our free turf that I read in the paper wasn't free, and we're going to put it down. That's not going to do, you know, it's not going to do what you're saying it's going to do. It's, we're putting out a worn piece of turf. Now,
Let me just say one thing.
wait, I want to finish up. Then you can say all you want because I'm on my nickel.
You're over it, but go ahead, end it up, please.
Now, on the ball field, just so you know, on the football field, out of the open space fund, we took $20,000 and put sod down. Beautiful football field. I guess you've all seen it. They play on it. I think it's 3 years now. That sod to put down and get was only $20,000. Here we paid $28,000 to hold this junk up from Annapolis that's wore out. Now, you know, somebody is either a Buffalo with me, or it's a job for Dave in Washington. You know,
We'll bring up the gentleman that gave us all the information and have him answer the question.
that's not out in all, you know, you can bring up the guy and all. But I want somebody to contact Annapolis and get the true story on the turf. You understand? If you're going to put this down for, I don't have no kids that young, but for people to play on and stuff, and if we're going to go through this expense to put it down,
Do you have a number?
I have his phone number and his name.
If you give it to me, I'll make the call.
You know,
I'll make it personal.
And, because I went down and looked at it, and, you know, looking to give horse in the mouth, I said, people just don't give stuff away for nothing. I mean, unless, you know, I know of, my daddy taught me when it's for nothing, you better look behind the door.
It's the
From what
federal government that does that.
From what I would, and it's a valid question, and I'll check. From what I understand, they had to go through the manufacturer anyway, because that goes back to the manufacturer. But I'll check. I mean, it's a valid question.
Part of the job, it's like here. Now you have all this, you've seen what kind of volume this turf is down there, you've all seen it. Now, part of the job to install new turf was to get rid of the turf, the old turf. You just don't put the new turf down and push the old turf to the side of the road,
Oh no, I understand that.
you know? So in come Barnegat,
Right.
you know? And, we got our $28,000. But, You know, it's gonna be looked into. I shouldn't have to be calling Annapolis. I just asked them, they told me the turf's been down 2 years. That's a lie. You know, so somebody lied to Dave. I know he believed him. But when you get something like this happens with my money, my 28,000 bought
Let
up
me
here.
call and I'll find out, and then I'll get the gentleman in here. He's gonna be the one that's gonna install it anyway, but,
Yeah, I only got one question on this budget. Dave, on the invoice, you started adding this $50 and it's no invoice on, what's that, paying taxes or something? You have it in there a couple of times. It just says, township, Barnegat Township pay 3. You paying money back into it?
I have to take a look at it, so.
Sure. It's in there about 3 times. It's a new addition. And I didn't hope for the invoice yet. Third one from the bottom. No invoice on it. Huh?
I have to check.
It's in there about 3 times.
Okay.
It's like you're paying something back. That's all I have. Thanks.
all right, thank you. Anybody else?
Al, I'd like to just address that,
Sure, Ben.
and not being an expert on turf, but we're talking about Annapolis football players playing on turf versus these junior league, and maybe the impact of the field would last a lot longer with the junior Bengals than they would with a team like Annapolis playing on it. That's just an opinion I have. That's maybe why they said the longevity of the field, being that it would be used by a smaller group of
We'll
players.
check it
All
out.
right, we'll check it out.
Turf's made
We'll
out
check it out.
turf's made out of synthetic sand and synthetics. The manufacturer, if you want to go on the internet and look at the turf, it'll tell you how long it lasts. It only lasts 8 years. It disintegrates. Do you understand?
Oh.
So we're putting down turf. It ain't no good. You might. What are you going to get a year out of it? So if you go on the internet, get the name of the turf. Go on it. It tells you how it's put down, how long it lasts.
We'll check it, I'll check it. Sir?
Joseph and Sarah, 20 Stillwater's Court. The expansion of the historic area or district that would possibly affect property owners positively or negatively depending on the situation. Is there any way of instituting a grandfather clause for present owners so that they wouldn't have to pay a newer added fee?
Well, it was my suggestion, sir, that fee be eliminated entirely from all of the historic districts.
Oh, okay.
We suggested that a couple of years ago, and I think we can put forward that by form of resolution or motion right here at the committee level, and just eliminate the fee. It may have to be a change in the ordinance itself, because it's.
So it would be a permanent thing that wouldn't
Yeah,
affect.
it wouldn't, right, it wouldn't,
Okay.
everybody that now is required to pay that fee would not be
Well,
required.
that's why I was asking about a grandfather tax clause.
Right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Pecci?
Frank Pecci, 11 Hemlock. Let me discuss one thing that you brought up earlier. I did the study on the fluoride. I know you're all gonna love what he didn't do. That study was done under the Department of Economic Development and Conservation, and I did it for the state. The original concept for fluoride was supposed to be so you didn't get cavities, as they did in the Midwest. The first test was in New York State, and it was flawed. So what happened after that, there were still promoters trying to get this fluoride into systems. And John will tell you, a lot of systems, what happens is they're in dead ends. And what happens is even when you try to control the amount of fluoride, when you're discharging into your system, it never comes out either as diluted or as too much. A lot of people, not necessarily children, what happened to a lot of children is that they start breaking out and what in your facial, it looked like a ringworm. It was a drying, and their fingernails, it looked like calcium was built up under the fingernails, it would raise them. Older people with arthritis and bursitis had a great deal of difficulty. I don't know why this is raising its ugly head again, but it's something that we should not allow. You get it in the toothpaste. If the parent wants it, go to the Board of Health. They'll give you a little fluoride tablet and you take it.
The reason it's being raised again, Frank, is because because the fellow who introduces this bill every 2 or 3 years in Trenton is a dentist.
Yeah. Really? Well, you know, guess what? They'll only do it one time.
And it's not gonna pass.
Yeah, I know. Well, let's hope it doesn't pass, and I'm glad to see a resolution saying this stuff is bad. It's rock poison, that's exactly what it is. In Oklahoma and Kansas and Texas, it's natural in the water. And if you see the glasses out there, I once did this stuff, glasses become opaque from it. Teeth wear down from it. They don't get much cavities, but they sure as heck got a lot of other problems.
You got no teeth.
Okay, on your ordinances, on your chapter 55 on land use, I know exactly, you know, what it's for. I just don't understand why it's like redundancy here, and then why don't we spell out what the terms, you know, actually mean and what we're doing down there. You know, when people look at TCC, PhD and all, they have no idea what it is. And if you're gonna do something, I think the terminology and what you're gonna do down there, and to bring industry down there, or whatever, because your one resolution, you're looking at the return, explanation, this amends section 5531 in the area, yard and building requirements in Schedule A to include the bulk, yard, and other requirements for the TC, CPHD.
Right,
That's
this is,
zone designations.
this is,
I know they are.
It's all in the actual
this is the
ordinance.
first reading of an ordinance that has to be published in the paper. I mean, how big do you want the agenda to be?
We-
You know, give them what that means, give them an idea of what that
We
means.
can have,
Well, here's the
we
first
can
one,
bring an
Frank.
overlay.
You know,
We
no,
could get an
no,
overlay.
I understand that.
Hold on.
I understand
We
that.
can have a I know what you're saying, we can have something put up so it can be explained, actually the whole
Hey, John,
area.
It's actually very easy. We currently have, for example, a CPHD zone,
But we'll
which is
just get a map, I mean,
which
the
is
actual map and put it up
commercial
and explain.
planned highway development. For the commercial planned highway development within town center, where it's going to allow higher densities, it's called a town center commercial planned highway development, TC CPHD. To distinguish it from the regular CPHD zone. And the same with the other zones, the CV and whatever else was.
We can get a map and show that,
Yeah.
right? And this
That'll
way-
be shown on the zoning map.
All right, we could do that before the second reading, and this way we'll take a look at it.
Okay, under resolution 212-159, overpayment of lots no longer assessed, why?
Where the lot number?
159.
That's probably the Laurel Oaks property that the town now owns. I
It's
think that's
Western
what it is.
Parkway, 92.16 lot 3.
Oh, no, it's 92, that's Ocean Acres.
Right.
It's a tax overpayments. Resolution 2012-159.
Yeah.
From time to time, the town acquires these little lots that are no value. I don't know exactly what this one is. This may have been a conservation lot that got deeded to the Pinelands Commission or something. It might have been that kind of a thing, and you have to adopt a resolution, taking the rest of the tax year bills off the books. That might be what that is. That's an Ocean Acres lot. I think.
Yeah, they paid $142 in error.
Yeah, it's an overpayment.
Yeah, I hope it's not a paper street
No,
someplace.
overpayment.
Okay. Then on resolution 160, the tax searches for, why are we doing those? We were just talking about the reval and, you know, all the works that were done, and all these should have been
As a result,
accomplished. You know?
as a result of the shared service agreement, we have to change the names of the person that has the ability to do that.
This is the person who's authorized by the town to tell the title companies when they do title searches, but the taxes are in a house.
Well, then the verbiage, to issue,
He issues tax
to
searches.
her.
She issues tax searches.
A different person.
Okay. You're an attorney, I like to understand things, and I think so does the folks. The other is on resolution 167, we were talking about the tax exempt, and I think not too long ago, from the comptroller from the state of New Jersey, which wrote the governor and both the Senate and the Assembly President, and said that tax exempt and tax abatements should be scrutinized before you do it. Okay? And we're scrutinizing, and I'm sure we're doing it because, as they said, we have to do it. Okay?
Now, the understanding is we're mandated, correct? We have no choice in it.
Affordable housing up there, yes. So what's the question, Frank?
Okay.
That's the question.
It's not a tax abatement, as
On
Dave
tax
explained.
exempt, or tax abatement.
It's not a tax abatement.
No, I said it's one or the other.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. The, resolution 169, government private energy aggregation program. Aggregation means putting a lot of things together.
Yes.
What, we've got either wind or we got solar.
No.
Are we talking, what are we talking about then?
State, state adopted a law about a year and a half ago, and the Board of Education may already be doing this with the State Board of Education. What you're doing is like a joint bid, somewhat similar to what we did not last year with the garbage contract, but a little different. This allows the town to accept or submit RFPs for a lot of the electric companies to bid on providing the middleman service, electric, to every town, every house in the town. JCP&L doesn't generate the electric that we use here, it's generated somewhere out west. But JCP&L and Atlantic City Electric, they're the middleman for the electric. That's who we pay our bills to, but they don't generate the electric. The state law allows the towns to go out on a town-wide basis and authorize RFPs for, there's 50 middlemen, 50 middlemen companies who do what Jersey Central Power and Light does. We're gonna get in Jersey Central Power and Light or Atlantic City Electric, they have a monopoly at this point in this town, because they're the only people you pay for your electric service. We're gonna go out to bid, and our bid will be every town, every house in the town, and if they wanna be, every commercial establishment in the town.
Every user of electric
Right.
or gas, right?
Well, we're doing electric first, we're gonna try to do this in short steps. And we're gonna get better price, because all the middlemen are gonna bid on this service. The electric won't change, the amount of electric you use won't change. When you call, because you have an electric outage, that won't change. The only thing that's gonna change is we're gonna pay a middleman less money to transport the energy over to you.
I do it now with my electric.
Well, you're
Send
smart,
it in,
but
so,
that's all.
Okay.
Jerry, am I correct that we would be like the first township applying for this?
As far as I know, you might be the first township. Now, the Board of Eds are doing it on a statewide basis, the county does it for their equipment, but I don't know of any other municipality that does it.
Vineland produces their own.
What's that?
Vineland.
Well, they produce their own, that's different, Seaside produces its own, hold on a second. Vineland doesn't produce its electric. Vineland's its own middleman, just like Seaside.
Just like we were, they've been doing that for years, for some reason, I guess.
Well, Farnaga's not gonna do it, Farnaga's gonna bid it out.
Okay.
Well, the school board, they plan to, with the solar, they plan to.
Well, I don't know about that, the school board, I think, does this through the state board of education, so you may know better than I, the state board of ed
Consortiums,
does
they
it.
have consortiums already.
But if the
Most
school board
districts
doesn't do
have
it, they can join in with us.
Consortiums,
Yeah.
they've done this for years. The last thing, and what Jake was speaking about, we went through this exercise one time before on the turf. And most turfs, as I recall, and we did a lot of research, maybe 8 years, even before that starts to break down. And the big thing at that time was it caused a lot of different infections. I think if you remember, they had pictures of some of the pro athletes that were getting infection, they didn't know what it was from. And it was from the material that was in the turf. The newer type, the very new type, it's not supposed to have that. The older type, does. But once it starts breaking down, even the newer type, they take it out because of the crumb, the rubber that comes up, and that's no good to inhale or whatever. So, if you remember, it was gonna be at the high school and the turf, and we were gonna build this big complex. So it's nothing new as far as whether it's good or whether it's bad. It's got a longevity, easy to look up on the computer, maybe 7 years, 8 years after that. It's there, but that's it. So I don't know, My big concern was if it's gonna float down there, because the maps that I looked at where they've gone, whether those trenches are gonna alleviate their particular problem, there were little waterways going through it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Adorno?
Raphael Adorno, 22 Beacon Drive. I'm going to highly suggest you as well to reach out to maybe Marine Academy also out there in Annapolis. Right on the computer, you can literally pull up their link, and when you're on their link of their university, it's right on their website of when they actually purchased this turf that's currently sitting in Barnegat. And some of the reasons of why they removed it. Completely worn out, I'm clicking on the link now. It's completely worn out, an increase in number of sustained injuries to those actual college athletes there in Navy Academy. They had to remove it because of the wear and tear. They were continuing putting in crumb rubber and filling it, so they decided to finally take it off. When you go on the site, it will ask you to click on Show Renovation. I click Show Renovation. It will tell you that that surface was put on in 2004. It underwent a major reconstruction in 2004. It tells you the architect that was involved and who installed it. It tells you about the stadium club seats that they added and the concession stands. It will then also tell you briefly about why they took it up, because it was due to just overuse. It already reached its life expectancy a little prematurely. All turfs are up to 8 years. They will tell you 8 years. 2004, torn up in 2010 or 11, and sat down at Lower Shore now for a year and a half. Even though it's been sitting down over at Lower Shore for a year and a half, it is less use. But they took it off because their athletes were injured. They had multiple injuries and they were tired of actually basically paying for the crumb rubber. There's also a link on it on another site to tell you what is actually in the crumb rubber. We know EPA and CDC monitors a lot of different things. There are a lot of carcinogens found in actually crumb rubber. So you got to look at the medical aspect of this as well. If I go back onto their site, they will actually also let you click on another section, and it will tell you all the references that they use to make their decision in removing it.
This is the Naval Academy.
It's right on, if I can walk up, I'll show you. It's right on their site. I'll have to, I can send it to you, I'll send it, I'll briefly send it to you. Navy Marine Corps Memorial Stadium. Okay, and then you can click Show Renovation, Show Playing Surface, and it'll tell you all the links attached to it, what was wrong with that. It's all on there, you can find it all yourself on the link. The other bigger concern is when you do more and more further studies on the turf. It is little kids, so there is a little bit less wear and tear, weight involved in that, but this is something that's already reached age. There was a reason for it to come off. He told you 2 years. It's not 2 years old. You can call that AD and that assistant AD, or you can go right to their website and pull all the information up. The other concern is, we all know Lower Shore's location. It's wide open. We took out about 110,000 square feet worth of trees and everything there. So that sun is beating on that direction where it is all day. Please go on websites and find out how much turf heats up in sunlight, up to 70 degrees hotter than the current temperature outside. There are studies at universities where they had to water down the stadium multiple times to get the elevation of that heat down. So, while you're doing this turf, you obviously have to install sprinklers. The other reason why you need sprinklers underneath the turf too is to help wash all the feces, the coliform, the standard plate counts. You're going to require many, many analytical tests that have to be done. Who's paying for all this? It's 80,000 square feet, 90,000 square feet per field. You're going to put it down. It's going to get sewed together. It's going to be done. You've got to bring in crumb rubber. You've got to refill all the divots. Then you have deer, all the other type of animals that are out there. You have to have an enormous amount of water to basically wash that field and treat it. Now you want kids who are very young who are going to play on that. and it can be up to 150 degrees in our type of temperatures here. 85 degrees outside, 90 degrees outside, just say there's 40 degrees hotter because it's on a beaming sun. The sun goes down at night, it's on the other side where the current field is. The other thing that I'm very concerned with is in the newspaper, it says 3 softball fields or baseball fields. I'm only guessing you're going to be putting possibly another field somewhere in the existing football field. I would highly suggest to please study a little further. The turf is great, the kids are all going to play on it if it's all done correctly, but what are we to have as another alternative if it's too hot? If we have a health department come out and they check for feces and the coliform, the standard play counts, all those things, now the kids can't play, they're going to cancel games. If you tear up one end zone and put a softball field there, we don't have an alternative to really still play. So please think it a little bit more thoroughly on completely removing that current existing field just because you put in the turf. We're not going to have anywhere else to play. We're going to be playing in a sand lot. I'm just expressing those concerns. When are you going to be able to put up the actual Photoshop of everything that's being proposed down there? When are we going to see what those plans are? You can't get them. I went to Mr. Hess's office. I was able to be able to look and see what's being proposed there. I understand everything that has to be done. I'm not against it. It's just you've got to be able to hear other perspectives. I'm not going to sit here and scare you about all the health issues, the MRSA, but those are things you really have to look at. The ones who won't tell you all about them are the ones who are invested in that type of business. They will tell you all the things that they do, all the cleaners, all the type of washing, so on and so forth, to make it a positive. Why are there so many scientists, doctors, EPA, CDC, everyone will tell you the opposite, to be careful with. I want you to basically look at this further. I believe you need to keep this in the public and open a little bit more. There are people who have a lot of knowledge of it. Do your homework, please investigate it further. That turf is not 2 years old. It's right here on the link, it's very simple. And lastly, when you actually type in on Google and you write hybrid assessment, 2 names come up, Abe Breed and Phil Checkia on the search engine. Google it yourself. You Google it yourself, and the first thing that comes up on it when you type in what is a hybrid assessment, Abe Breed and Phil Checkia, Barnegat Township Committee minutes.
Yeah, well, we said that before that was what's that?
Anybody else?
Yeah, just one thing.
Mr. Mendes.
8 coal plants are being shut by Obama as we speak. Less electricity, higher price.
What was that?
She'll tell you.
Mary Ann Benty, 565 each day. I wasn't gonna get up today. But I just wanna know, what is the expansion of the historical district? Where is that?
Basically, it's going, the historic district will go down to Cedar Street, and on one end, and then down to, I guess, what is it, we call it New Road, down there by the, what's the?
It's,
Memorial Drive?
Lower Shore Road now.
Lower Shore Road.
That's Lower Shore.
Up to around, Burr Street, and down a little bit down around Powell Lane, which is just before where you live, so in other words, it's gonna double in size, if not more, and encompass all of the historic buildings, and it,
So my house is gonna be included in that?
no, actually, your house will not be.
What
Powell
about the
Lane.
Historical Society?
Well, maybe it is.
It is.
They're right next door to me. No.
Next meeting, can we have a map?
We have a-
We'll have a map next
We
week.
have a map I'll show you. Does Powell Lane just past you?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so maybe yours isn't, there.
Also, I know I've brought this up in the past, why do we collect, holiday pay to do recycling on holidays? We did it on Christmas, the day after Christmas, that was a holiday, we did it on President's Day.
Because certain times during the year, when they have to work on a holiday, they receive holiday pay in accordance with the contract. As a result of going to recycling every other week, we have been able to greatly reduce the amount of holiday pay being paid to Public Works. But there are several holidays during the year in which trash is collected, therefore recycling is also collected.
Yeah, but I think it would be much more, much cheaper to pay a couple of hours overtime than pay double time.
Again, if they work on a designated holiday, the contract provides for holiday pay.
They don't feel like a robot. And as far as the reason, I'll give you one example of reason that Ocean County, we had to pay $400,000 for reassessments, maybe Cape May didn't. That somebody's pocket is being lined, and I would look to your Republican County Chairman, Gil Horn.
Anybody else have a motion to close the public?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
He's got over yet.
Okay. New business.
You want this, how do you want it, this way or this way?
Ordinance 2012-5, first reading. An ordinance amending chapter 55 land use of the code of the township of Barnegat.
Motion introduced.
Roll call.
Committeeman Lasella?
Yes.
Committeeman Morano?
Yes.
Committeeman Melchiona?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Billy?
Yes.
Mayor Sewell?
Yes. Ordinance 2012-07, first reading. 6.
An ordinance amending chapter 55 land use of the code of the township of Barnegat.
Motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Committeeman Lasella? Committeeman Morano?
Yes.
Committeeman Melchiona?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Billy?
Yes.
Mayor Sewell?
Yes. 2012-07, first reading.
An ordinance amending chapter 55 land use of the code of the township of Barnegat.
Motion.
Motion to do.
Second. Roll call.
Committeeman Lasella?
Yes.
Committeeman Morano?
Yes.
Committeeman Melchiona?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Billy? Mayor Sewell?
Yes. Ordinance 2012-08, first reading.
An ordinance amending chapter 55 land use of the code of the township of Barnegat.
Second.
Roll call.
Committeeman Lasella?
Yes.
Committeeman Morano?
Yes.
Committeeman Melchiona?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Billy? Mayor Sewell?
Yes. Ordinance 2012-09, first reading.
An ordinance amending chapter 55 land use of the code of the township of Barnegat.
Do I have a motion?
Motion to do. Second.
Roll call.
Committeeman Lasella?
Yes.
Committeeman Morano?
Yes.
Committeeman Melchiona?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Billy?
Yes.
Mayor Sewell?
Yes. Formal action agenda. Approval of minutes for the February 21st meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call.
Committeeman Lasella?
Yes.
Committeeman Morano?
Yes.
Committeeman Melchiona?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Billy?
Yes.
Mayor Sewell?
Yes. Formal action agenda.
Resolution 2012-154, resolution authorizing payment of bill list in the amount of $919,785.75.
Do I have a motion?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Roll call.
Committeeman Lasella?
Yes.
Committeeman Morano?
Yes.
Committeeman Melchiona?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Billy?
Yes.
Mayor Sewell?
Yes. Resolution 2012-155.
Resolution authorizing emergency temporary appropriations for the current fund.
Do I have a motion?
Second.
Roll call.
Committeeman Lasella?
Yes.
Committeeman Morano?
Yes.
Committeeman Melchiona?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Billy?
Yes.
Mayor Sewell?
Yes. Consent agenda.
The below listed items are considered to be routine by the township of Barnegat and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no formal discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, this item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately.
Do I have a motion?
Motion to adopt. Second.
Okay, everybody's okay with everything on this?
Yeah.
Roll call.
Committeeman Lasella?
Yes on everything, abstain from 167 and 168.
Committeeman Morano?
Yes.
Committeeman Melchiona?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Billy?
Yes.
Mayor Sewell?
Yes. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All